Everything is personal right here. Everything is personal right here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Everything is Personal. And today our guest is David Deane Spread. How you doing, David?
Great, Len. Thanks for letting me be on your show. I'm looking forward to it.
Likewise. I wanted to ask you, you've coached, and correct me if I'm wrong, but over 150 CEOs, leaders, etc. What first drew you to this line of work? And has your purpose actually evolved or changed over the last 25 years?
Okay, so that's a big question to answer. My purpose hasn't changed. My mission is to help leaders become the best version of themselves. I'm very aware of the important role that leaders play. Not that they're any more special than anyone else, but they've made a choice to take on a huge responsibility, and they need to be the best versions of themselves if they want their people to flourish. But over the 25 years, I've realized that, particularly with my commercial clients, that I needed to have a very much more specific purpose for why would you want to be the best version of yourself in the context of running a business, for instance. And when I looked at all the ways in which businesses can be valued and what makes them tick, what makes them work, and why have them beyond their purpose and their values, I realized that if you really want to be the best, then you need to become the employer of choice in your particular demographic, and then leverage that to become the provider or supplier of your goods and services in your demographic. And I felt that when you are that, and I have clients who have attained that is our purpose, the value of the business is massive. Not that they're going to sell it, but they're now in a position to sell it if they wanted to, or to get more funding, but they certainly attract the talent that they need to deliver the best quality service. So
How do you
that's
become
kind of where it's evolved.
how do you become the employer of choice? Like what does that entail? Is that creating the right values? Is that the right work environment? Does that come from the actual visionary? And is the leader and the CEO always the visionary of the company?
Most often, yes, but it doesn't have to be like that.
Hmm.
And the shared vision is the one that has the most traction. And the smart leader invites his people to contribute to the creation of the vision. But there's a set of inputs that are required before that, and that is to make sure that our values align. The values are the single most important part of how we do things and why we do things, because of our values.
Mm-hmm.
And the vision should really be a reflection of the values.
Mm-hmm.
But most often we see the vision, then we see the values. And the values are normally just stuck on the wall as a list of things.
Yeah.
And the reality is that when you have a deep look in the business, they're actually not really living to those values. They're really after profit and sustainability, and there is a struggle to survive. We need to get beyond that.
So I'm picking up a little bit of an accent, maybe New York, maybe somewhere in Philly, but I just want to, where did you grow up?
Okay, so yeah, that's interesting. I don't have an American accent. Well, I haven't lived in America long enough to develop an accent, and I'm a bit of a mimic. But I grew up in Medina, Western Australia, but I was made in India, dropped in London, and landed in Perth by the time I was 4.
Interesting.
And my family are largely from India. We're actually an Irish-Indian mix. That's our bloodline. And the family, all the adults spoke like this, the way I'm speaking right now.
What part of
We had
India
that accent.
do you know what part of India that you
Yeah,
came from?
dad was born in Nainital, up in the hills,
Oh, uh-huh.
and mum was born in Delhi.
Okay.
But the family ended up in what is now called Kolkata. It used
Okay.
to be
Yeah.
Calcutta.
Yeah.
But the bulk of the family moved here to
Okay.
Australia.
So your parents were together and growing up, and do you have siblings?
Yeah. So I'm the surviving eldest of five.
Hmm.
The there was a no, four, sorry. Their mum had five kids, but one died before I was born in India. 5 years before I was born, and then I came along, and then I had a two sisters and a brother. My sister closest to me, Anne, 13 months younger than me, she committed suicide when she was 27. She was the first person to have a open heart surgery in Western Australia. She was born with a premature with a hole in her heart,
Hmm.
and so when she had her operation to fix that hole in her heart when she was about 12, she had it was 8 hours on ice with her chest open, and it changed her personality completely. And she ended up being depressed
Hmm.
and low self-esteem, and she attempted suicide 42 times and succeeded on the 43rd.
Wow. I
That's quite
mean,
an impact on the family.
well, that's what I was going to ask. What was the impact on the family through the trials and tribulations of all these attempts, and knowing that you have somebody that you want to help because this is your family member, but maybe you don't have the capacity, or maybe nobody can help.
Yeah, and look, mum and dad, I mean, it actually, I mean, you can imagine the pain. And actually, I've experienced that. I lost my eldest son too when he was 29, and losing your children before you, the impact's pretty high. But the bottom line is that you come through it. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
And it certainly gave me a a higher sense of empathy, particularly for my clients. Uh, it's surprising how many people experience the things that I've just spoken about.
Yeah,
We're
they
not
don't talk
alone.
about it. You're absolutely right. Are you comfortable sharing a little bit about your son and the situation that occurred?
Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah, and look, let me just finish off with my sister.
Yeah.
She was in Perth, and at this time I was in Sydney, and I was actually a covert operator undercover with the Federal Narcotics Bureau. And I had found, and this was back in, we're talking the 70s, right?
Mm.
I'm a little bit longer in the tooth than you. But I'd found a phone box, a telecom phone box that was broken, and I could ring my sister from Sydney to Perth for nothing. And every Sunday I used to ring her and try and gee her up and try and convince her to move forward with her life.
Mm.
And one day I rang and no one answered the phone. And
Mm.
I rang mum and dad, and that's when I found out that she'd actually succeeded on the 43rd time. But when my son was born, now I mean, unfortunately, my mum gave birth to. I'm actually the only healthy child out of four. Well, five when you think about the first one that she lost. And Anne was born with a hole in her heart. My other sister Elizabeth, was born. I think she was a manic. She's a manic depressive. She's been under psychiatric care pretty much most of her life, even though she's been a mother and a wife. And my brother Mark, who's the youngest, he had who has cerebral palsy, and so I grew up with a lot of disability around me, and it was quite weird because I was fit and healthy and tall. I'm tall. I'm strong. I'm very fortunate. So I got the good genes. When my son was born, so as a consequently, I always dreaded having children because I feared that they were going to be born with some kind of disability because of what I'd experienced as in my life. And when my son was born, I was terrified. And but everything looked okay. Um, Now, at this time, I was undercover still, and the fact of the matter is that none of our relationships in covert operations survived because we just weren't there.
Yeah.
And when we did turn up, we weren't in the best frame of mind. We were constantly in some level of paranoia,
Mhm.
and consequently, Margaret, my wife, left me with Daniel, my son, when he was 6 months old.
Mhm.
And she went back to Adelaide, and I remained operating in Sydney. And she rang me one day about a month afterwards and said that Daniel actually has Alström syndrome. And I said, "What's that?" She said, "Well, it's a endocrinological disorder, just a bad luck thing. Um, and there were only 20 known cases on the planet at that time." And I said, "Well, so what does it mean?" "Well, it means that he's going to probably not live beyond 21. He is going to be blind. He's going to be deaf. His bones are going to grow differently. He's going to need a lot of operations for corrective structural surgery." I said, "So what about his mental capacity?" He said, "Oh, no, that's going to be fine. That's normal." So, so I kind of realized he was going to end up being a prisoner in his own body
Mhm.
over time. And yes, they lose a lot of energy quickly. They lack energy. Their heart gets grows too big, and so there's something the brain grows too, but it didn't impact on his intelligence or his cognitive ability. And so yeah, that was a bit of a blow. And then I had all the guilt because of my choice of career, and I wasn't able to be there, and they didn't want me there. Yeah, it was pretty messy. But as time went by, and I normalized my life, by the time in 1990 I left all that, and basically reunited, not in a relationship, but on better terms with Margaret, and I was able to see Daniel, and yeah. So and now Daniel passed when he was 29, so he was born in 74, so 29, 74, 2003
Mhm.
is when he passed. When my youngest child, Kiri, was 6 years old, and that broke my heart.
Yeah, I'm
But
sure.
but I mean, Daniel taught me a lot about courage, though. I mean, I had courage from the military experience and all of that stuff, but being a prisoner in your own body and remaining happy
Mm.
is a another feat
Yeah, being
of
able
courage.
to mentally overcome a lot of those things. Kind of trying to connect it back to your background, military, covert operations, law enforcement, all the things you did. Are there any lessons from those high stakes environments that influence how you coach executives today?
Yeah, very much. I've been very much influenced by my training. I guess yes, and the main thing is to for leaders to remain calm under pressure,
Mm,
because when we're stressed, we can't think straight,
mm,
no matter how good you are. And so the calmer you are, the smarter you can, well, the straighter you can think.
mm,
And so there are many, many techniques around remaining calm under fire or calm under pressure, and it largely related to breathing
mm.
and the ability to focus. And so blocked breathing is how we were taught to calm ourselves down. So, breathe into the count of 3 or 5, depending on the urgency of the matter.
Yeah,
Holding for the count of 5, breathe out to the count of 5, hold for the count of 5, and breathe in. And when you're counting and breathing and you're focused on that, you can't think about anything else,
yeah.
and that calms you down.
So do you suggest, well, we call box breathing, as you were alluding to? Do you suggest doing that in a situation where where you're starting to get excited, or do you do this as a practice, like waking up in the morning, doing your meditation, whatever it is that people do, and do you box breathe to get yourself ready for the day, or is it something that you actually pull out of your pocket in a situation where you feel that anxiety coming on?
Yeah, really good question. And there are many, many breathing techniques. It's actually there are books on it.
Yeah,
That's how amazing it is. And we take breathing for granted, and yet it's one of the most powerful tools in our kit. And so I recommend that when you feel that you are entering into a period of stress, or you can anticipate it, you begin the box breathing
mm, got
at
it.
that point in time. I also recommend that you practice it so that you get good at it, so that it becomes an easily choosable skill.
Mm,
There's another type of breathing which is deliberately designed to lower your blood pressure and slow your heart rate.
mm,
And that is breathing into the count of 3, which is a very quick full breath, hold just for the count of 2, and then slowly release it to the count of 10. Now, do that in a sequence of, say, 4 or 5 times, and you can actually feel that you've lowered your heart rate and diminished your blood pressure, and you are feeling calmer. So there are different techniques, and I used that the latter technique to help me go to sleep fairly quickly.
got it. What is, if I remember correctly, metitude?
Metitude, yes, Metatude.
Yeah. What is it?
That's a
What
made I
is
made
that?
it up.
Yeah, yeah. What is it, and what does it mean to you personally? I'm so curious. I want people to really connect to that.
Yeah, so it's so meta is big picture,
Yeah.
and I've taken attitude. So having a big attitude, because I guess the core expertise that I bring to my clients is attitudinal competence.
Mm,
That's the ability to choose your very best attitude for whatever's happening or has happened or might happen. and not be stuck with a habitual attitude.
So do you prime yourself for your best attitude to come into the day, or like what does it entail? Are there exercises that you have to do to be able to be at your best attitude?
Yes, it's moment by moment,
Mhm.
right? Because in any given day, we have a range of situations occurring around us and to us and with us.
Mhm.
Sometimes we choose them, and sometimes they're foisted upon us.
Yeah.
And so it's about taking stock of yourself in that moment, that self-awareness. How am I being right now? How do I need to be right now to handle this the best possible way?
Mhm.
It's a question you ask yourself.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the core skills is the ability to ask yourself open-ended, respectful, constructive questions rather than run a dialogue of making statements to yourself. Oh, I don't like this. Well, that sucks. And look at him. He looks stupid. Oh, I don't like the way this is going. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to say right now. What if? What if that happens? What if? So we have all those kind of. What a waste of time. Because there's a part of our brain, the amygdala, is actually responding to those thoughts as though they're actually happening. And they're dumping the chemicals that go along with the belief structure. And that's, a lot of that is adrenaline.
Yeah.
And that's not good for you.
So do you like is there a list of questions or anything that you can ask yourself? Like I'm just thinking about a situation, a leadership situation. Let's say an account didn't close. You have to give I'm making your numbers this month. You're stressed about some other thing. You have a dispute, an employee dispute. There's all kinds of things that happen. Uh, you know, I was taught as by a mentor. He said the job of a CEO is always to be raising money. I'm like, nah, no worries. We're good. And it turned out to be true. So you're always like, you think you have a deal and you're signing a deal and it doesn't get funded. There's all kinds of things that can happen. So do you prime yourself in advance, or as you said, situational? So is there a list of like mental questions that you have to ask yourself to get yourself focused and present in that moment and get yourself out of that state of response to the emotion and come up with what solutions you have to do in the moment?
Yeah, really, really, really important, very important point, and you're bang on correct. There, it is about training, taking control of your thoughts.
Mhm.
Number one, do not let random thoughts enter your head, which will come out of programming. How you grew up,
Mhm.
basically. And there are two sides to that. One is the positive side, and the other one's the negative side. And both of them can be triggered by what's happening around you.
Mhm.
And so number one question: What am I observing right now? What am I perceiving right now? Am I interpreting it in the most useful manner? Am I focused on the negative, or am I focused on something that's positive?
Mhm.
Because whatever we pay attention to grows.
Mhm.
So number one, ask yourself: Are you seeing things accurately?
Mhm.
Make no assumptions. Ask questions. What am I believing right now? Is that belief helpful? What are my intentions right now? Oh, sorry, before that, because you've got a belief, our body responds to our belief as though whatever it is that we're believing is actually happening.
Mhm.
And so if it's fear that we're feeling, it's likely to be an adrenaline mix. If it's love that we're feeling, then there's a different kind of thing. Oxytocin comes into the picture. So we need to look at how we're feeling, and we need to understand. Through attitudinal competence, we learn how to change our feelings,
Mhm.
and that's a very important step, very important process, very simple process, by the way. And then once we've recognized how we feel, we can adjust it to feel the way we want to by thinking about things that give us those thoughts.
Mhm.
The other thing that we need to do is to be clear about what's our intention in the moment. What are we intending? And to separate, and this is a key thing, to separate our intentions from our expectations. You know, I mean, have you ever played snooker?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, or billiards?
Yeah.
And you're going to hit that ball into the pocket, and it's actually not a bad, it's not a super difficult shot, and you know you can do it, but in that last moment you expect that you might miss.
Yep.
What's going to happen? What'll
Yeah.
actually happen?
Yeah. You're most likely going to miss.
Yeah. So if your intentions and expectations are not aligned, you're likely not to achieve what you intend. The expectation may win.
Yeah.
And so do not operate on expectations.
Mhm.
Operate on intentions.
Mhm.
And finally, be very aware of yourself. And those questions have made you aware of yourself. And then you marry that up to the situation, and you make choices that are positive and constructive and timely.
I wanted to ask you, growing up in your situation that you were describing earlier, how do you feel
Mm.
that impacted your desire to serve also because you were in the military, you were in law enforcement, all those things. And also, did you have to, you know, because you had, siblings that had health concerns, it probably created additional stress in the household that people, that's not the common stress and, other families go through. Did that inspire you to want to serve in some way, or was it just like I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to make sure that I'm strong and brave and and show people that I can kind of be a little bit different than the people that are perceived to be weaker because they have some of these physical challenges going on?
Yeah, that's pretty insightful because all of that is true. All of that is true. So, yes, I wanted to help and serve. Yes, but I also wanted to play with the toys that went along with that service. You know, I mean that's a reality. So, you know, I mean they glorify us because we're serving and putting our lives on the line. But at the end of the day, when we joined, we thought about that a little bit, but most of the time it was about playing with the toys. But then it suddenly changes when you're actually in the worst possible situation. You're now looking after your mates,
Is
and it
that
all changes to that.
I'm trying to correlate the two because I just recently had a person that was a Marine Special Force, and we talked about and in business. I always talk about this too, and I haven't been in the military, so I don't have firsthand experience, but I try to let people know, like, when I build a team around me, I know the person to my right has got that side. The person to my left's got that side. I have the front. I don't have to worry about. These are the people I trust, and I'm taking care of my side for them, and vice versa. That's what I want to have happen. Does that show up in when you're doing this in the military and you're doing this in law enforcement? You learn those skill sets. Can you take those skill sets and apply them to leadership and business as well?
Look, 100%. And the key word that you used there was trust.
Mhm.
And so the thing that's really different, um, in my experience anyway, in at least in the Australian context, is that we do a lot of training in the military and law enforcement. We train, 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 train. In commerce, we don't.
Mhm.
And therein lies the big gap. And the biggest gap in commerce is in the leadership space. People are promoted because they're technically competent. That but their people skills aren't there.
Mm.
And they don't do enough training. I mean, for me to become a platoon commander was 12 months intensive, almost 24/7 leadership training and practice. And then when you come out as a young second lieutenant, I was 20 when I was commissioned. I'm serving with soldiers who are old enough to be my father, who've had at least 20 years service, and they know everything. And they finished off my training with their good advice, you know. And thank God I had some good warrant officers and some good sergeants to help me in my early days.
I think you said
Otherwise,
something
I would have
really.
made a mistake and would have turned out to be a poor leader.
I think you said something really important. I just want to reemphasize this notion of training and training for leadership and training for your position. Because, we have university training. You get a master's degree, an MBA or something like that. I mean, there's nothing that you learn in your MBA that can prepare you for business, for executive business. It just completely different. There's nothing you're going to learn. So, in terms of training, what can we do to get our employees or our executives prepared and trained adequately so they can the same way as the military, as you said, or law enforcement, the same way that they can perform and not be surprised and know how to address situations that come up. You can't learn everything, obviously, but as you just mentioned, there's techniques to be able to not react right away and to take a step back and assess the situation, etc. But I'm not sure if that training exists. What kind of training should corporations invest in if they want their leadership to be on par, like you were talking about the military?
Yeah, a really good question. Look, it all boils down to money. And unfortunately, the training industry has not helped themselves because they haven't learned how to advocate for the return on investment for more extensive training, nor have they learned how to explain the cost of not doing it.
Mm.
And I've made those distinctions, and so I can give a person, and in fact I do it for our fire brigade. I run a 5-day program, and that's then followed up by coaching. We do the stuff you can't learn from books. And look, the key things. There are 3 things that leaders must master, and that is their attitudes, their behaviours, and their conversations. That's it, right? And so if we can take people and say, look, that's what it is. That's when you are delivering and deploying leadership, you are deploying yourself via your attitude, your behaviour, and your conversation. And what we need to do now is to practice the various scenarios where your attitude needs to be adjusted, your behaviour needs to be adjusted, and your conversation needs to be quite specific for that situation. And so then we go through a range of situations. How do we take hold of a person who's a high performer and help them to stay on track and help others to come with them? How do we deal with a person who has been a high performer and is now in a slump? How do we deal with the negative, the naysayers? How do we deal with the aggressive? How do we deal with the sociopath in the workplace? And 1 in 100 males are sociopathic, and 1 in 200 females are sociopathic, or on that spectrum.
Those are your best salespeople, the sociopaths. They
Well,
usually close.
and they also gravitate into leadership.
Yeah, that's
Because
true.
they want the power.
That is true.
You know, and so how do we deal with that? How do we have that conversation? How do I have a conversation where I'm only asking you questions, and at the end of the day, you have now received focused attention in a respectful and open questioning manner, and you have realized that you can do better in a particular thing and you are committed to doing it, and all I've done is ask you questions that you've been delighted to answer. And that's a skill set. Now that's leadership in action at its best. And you're actually, as a leader, you're actually a coach.
What separates a good leader from a truly great leader in today's complex environment?
Yeah, I mean, look, that is a really good question, and the closest that I've seen it is for the. And I'm just trying to think of the author's name. He wrote the book Good to Great, Built to Last, Good to Great. Collins, Jim Collins, and he defined level 5 leadership, which is the leadership that we're talking about. And this is the leader who takes responsibility for everything that goes wrong, and gives credit to others for everything that goes right. This is the leader who has the ability to say, you know what, I stuffed up, it's mine, I'll fix it. This is the leader who says, I'm not sure, what do you think? This is the leader who lets others speak first and then chips in at the end. This is the leader who is always learning. The leader who knows that he will never know enough or she will never know enough. And that we all have our vulnerabilities. I mean, at the end of the day, every human being is trying to overcome the negative side of the programming they got when they were kids. All of us are.
For sure.
Doesn't matter who you are, and that's what we have to deal with. And it's a lifelong learning journey, and and it's about learning about oneself.
You talk about communication. I'm wondering, in your experience, coaching experience, what was the most difficult conversation that you had to facilitate? And what was the outcome of that conversation? Was there a learning experience in that?
Yeah, I'm always learning. I learn, and mainly from my clients, of course. The most difficult conversation that I've experienced in the context of what I do nowadays are two very competent business partners who realise that they don't agree with one another, and it's impacting on the business. The employees get to see that the conflict between these two business owners. The business is a pretty unique business, and neither of the partners wants out, and both of the partners want the other partner to change.
Sounds like a marriage, right?
Yeah, it is. In fact, it is. And my role has been and still is with that. And I'm actually talking about a live situation that's happening right now. My role is to help those people to see that the change that needs to happen is the one inside themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And to understand that we are different. And to understand that we can have the same aspirations, and that there are many roads lead to Rome. There are many ways to do something in a way that works. And to understand that each other have different ways of doing something that they both love. And they need to show unity to their people.
Yeah, I mean,
or they will lose their talent.
Right. It's basically what we were just said earlier. It's that family dynamic, because when you're in a company, if your parents are fighting all the time, it reflects
Hmm.
upon the kids of that company as well, or that family
Yeah.
and that company, same kind of thing. And getting on the same page is really important. But you said something really, really important. When you want somebody else to change, you have to look within yourself and make those changes yourself. I think people read a lot of books and watch TV and watch these programs of leaders, and we try to emulate what we see or what we read. However, that may not be innate to us. That's not our nature. So,
Yeah.
you're seeing, I remember years ago, I read The Art of the Deal, the Donald Trump book. And, I remember my ex wife was like, man, if you can only be like tough or like Steve Jobs and be an asshole, people will treat you differently. I'm like, I can try to do that, but that's not my innate nature. I have to triple down on the best version of myself. But I think people are, I don't want to say there's a fear of vulnerability, but vulnerability is perceived as weakness sometimes. And I believe, and then we have this dichotomy of emotional intelligence, vulnerability, connection. So how do we bring that together where somebody can still be authentic to themselves when they're a leader, and be vulnerable without being, you know, taken advantage of as well because of their vulnerability?
Yeah, I mean that's excellent thinking and question. The look, emotional intelligence is only a part of attitudinal competence, and the pathway to improve emotional intelligence is through attitudinal competence because you're actually looking at the building blocks of your persona is your attitude. And emotional intelligence is merely a part of that. Because when you think about what are emotions, emotions are the physical manifestations of your feelings. Well, what causes emotions? Well, what causes feelings? Your beliefs in the moment. If you think that you're in danger right now, how are you going to behave? And what emotions are going to be come to the surface?
Yeah, I mean, you have options: fight, flight, or
Yeah,
freeze.
fight, flight, or freeze. You know, and so and so we get to see that. We might see that, and you'll be stressed. So when you're stressed, your focus narrows. You become tunnel visioned. Your breathing becomes shallow. In other words, you're now denying oxygen to the brain. You can't think straight, and you're energized. Your limbs are energized. So there's all sorts of things, and if it gets really bad, you lose control of your sphincter muscle.
That's the best one.
But, and I've had that, so it's not pleasant. It's that scared.
Yeah.
But you shit yourself. I mean, it's really
Was that
it's a
was that during a
reality.
was that during a covert operation that you were involved in, or?
No, as when I no, I thought I was going to die. I mean, I really did. I was falling.
Hmm.
I was falling. I had a fall. I actually it was a big fall. I fell off the edge of a cliff,
Oh wow.
and on my way down, I thought I'm dying, and I shot myself.
Huh.
Scared as scared as all hell. But I survived. I didn't even break a bone.
Wow.
I just had a messy pants.
Well, it's great. Somebody up there is looking out for you. That's
Yeah, mate. I've. It's quite funny. I have been shot. I've been stabbed. I've been burnt. I've been bashed, and I'm still here.
but you have been wounded and shot, and you said burnt as well. What do you say
Yeah,
burnt?
yeah, and that was more of an accident than a than
Okay.
a an act of aggression.
But
But
the shooting and the stabbing was that was
I know they were
in
all
line of
part of
duty.
that's work. Work.
Yeah.
That's the work. But
Wow.
the look, everything boils down to the only four things that we can control, and we've got to
Mhm.
really get our head around this. We forget it. We are super powerful creatures. We're super powerful, and we use our power the wrong way.
Mhm.
If we use our power to focus on the negative, what's going to happen?
Yeah, we'll manifest that.
Yeah. If we use our power to focus on the positive, the opposite happens.
Yeah.
And so the only four things that we've got control over are our thoughts, our feelings, our words, and our actions. We have no control over anything else.
Mhm.
We can influence or force. That's it. And we know that influence works sometimes and force works sometimes. And even if it's working for the moment, it'll only be for the moment.
Mhm.
So we've got to manage our thinking from the get-go. But people don't know how to do that. People are thinking on automatic,
Yeah.
and they don't know how to think on manual easily. And so this is a breakthrough moment for them. When I say, okay, so do you know the difference between how you think on automatic and how do you think on manual? And they say, yeah. I said, well, let's play a game and let's test it. I want you to think, with all the power that you can. And so let's play a game. And they say, yeah, okay. So how do you spell the word silk, as in silk shirt? How do you spell silk?
SILK.
You sure?
I think so.
Okay, so how do you spell silk again?
SILK.
Yeah, okay, good. So what do cows drink?
Cows. The
Cows,
water.
yeah.
Water.
Good. Okay, good. Right. So most people say milk.
Yeah, because you're. I get
All right.
it.
So you hesitated and thought about it. You made the difference.
Yeah.
So then I'd say, okay, well, give it another go. So how do you spell the word shop, as in retail therapy?
SHOP.
Okay, good. Again,
SHOP.
again, a little bit faster now.
SHOP.
Okay, what do you do when you come to a green light?
Go.
God, see what you do. You are staying on manual, man. That's so good. You're the first person who's done that. Well done.
Good job. I'll give myself some credit.
Yeah, good job. But do you see how you paused? You didn't race to go. You didn't race to answer.
That's the beat. You have to take a beat in life, and I think we are on autopilot so much that we
I
just
love
go.
that. You so true. And you just demonstrated the way people could be. Now we didn't waste any time.
Yeah.
We didn't waste any time. You paused and you came up with the correct answer. But did stop or milk enter your mind at any point in time?
Of course, you get it comes. You have to discount it right away because it's
All
wrong.
right, there you go. Now most people blurt out that there's no gap between the mind and the mouth,
Yeah, you're right.
right? Or
I
there's no
love that.
gap between the thought and the tongue.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
You got to create the gap.
I wanted to ask you because you've coached and worked with people on different continents, and we talked about core beliefs, but are there cultural differences that manifest themselves in different places where you have to approach the things a little bit differently based on the culture that you're working with?
Yeah, at a surface level, yes, for sure. And these are issues of politeness and how do we build a relationship. There are cultural norms that belong to those areas, but once we get past that bit and we've got that trust,
Yeah.
we've got the acceptance that we are in an intimate conversation or a it's personal but respectful. Then we go. Now we're humans
Yeah, we'll get past that. So
with all the same shit that humans have.
exactly. What What does the didgeridoo teach you about leadership or rhythm, presence?
What the didgeridoo?
Yeah.
Did you say? Oh, right. Okay. So you've been digging into my past. The
I'm a big
didgeridoo.
fan of the instrument. So there's a group
Oh,
that
look, yeah,
I
it's
love called Jamiroquai, and I'll never forget when they pulled out the didgeridoo in concert. I was like, "What is this? Incredible!" So yeah.
yeah, it's a fabulous instrument. It's actually an instrument not only of the Aborigine.
Mm,
It's just a wood age instrument,
okay.
wood and stone, even Stone Age. I mean, the Irish have now got a metallic version of it called the Dord,
Mm,
played exactly the same way. It's just metallic. The the Well, certainly it reinforces breathing, the power of breath, and the ability to control one's breathing apparatus to the point where I can circular breathe. In other words, I can play for 20 minutes without a
mm,
break.
mm,
No, there's constant sound occurring, and that means that I'm using my nose, my lungs, my tongue, my mouth. My mouth becomes a slave cylinder. My lungs are the master cylinder. My tongue is the valve that goes in between. The inlet valve is the nose, and the outlet valve is the mouth
mm.
or the lips.
Right.
And they vibrate in a particular way, and hence the sound. So it taught me a lot about personal control over my own body, because learning how to circular breathe is a big deal. In terms of managing how I feel, it is my form of meditation is the didgeridoo.
Mm,
I'm just listening to sound and I'm making the sound. And there's nothing else going on in my head other than that.
I love
And
it.
the breathing. So I'm actually oxygenating myself to the max because it's circular breathing, is constant air running through. There's no point in time when my lungs aren't full of oxygen.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in my research, you also raise cattle. Is that correct? Or you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I. Yeah,
How
in
does
fact, I was going to
leadership
go
show
down
up in
there.
that? You have to be the
Well, I
leader.
mean, I've always been interested in animals. I love because it's a behavioural thing, and we're all animals really. And I mean, I began. I mean, dogs and horses were my first primary animal love. But a few years ago, I decided that I needed to learn about cattle.
Mm,
And that's a choice. It was a choice.
uh,
And I had a client who actually had a farm
mm,
and was breeding Charolais. That's the big white cow, beef animal. And and I said, oh, gee, I'd like to play with breeding cattle, and I like Brahman, which is the animal I've chosen. And he said, oh, just do it on my property.
uh,
I said, are you kidding? He said, yeah, I'm actually going to move out of cattle because he had PTSD.
mm,
He was a fireman who had a farm as well, and I was actually training him and coaching him in incident control management of himself during incident control. And then we just became friends. And he said, "Well, you can run them on my property." And I said, "Oh, yeah, great. But what's your adjustment fees?" He says, "It's $1 a day per head."
mm.
I'm
Wow.
going, "Are you kidding?" He said, "No, no, that's what I want. It's all good." And so I've now got a small herd. There's 30 now, 30 Brahman cows, and I'm crossing them with the Murray Grey, which is another Australian breed,
Mm,
to create the Greyman, which so the mission is to sell bulls, Greyman bulls, to our northern and hard country herds. So that's what I'm specifically doing. So these animals now, I mean, the Murray Grey has particular quality: easy birth, small birth, fast growing, easy birth, beautiful temperament, and a marbled square carcass. It's a marbled meat, so the fat goes through the muscle, and a square carcass for which is good for butchering, I suppose is the harsh way to say it. And the Brahman also has a terrific temperament, does very, very well on poor food, and is tick resistant.
Okay.
So those are all the qualities that I want in an animal suitable to be bred up north in our hard country.
Super interesting. I mean, you have so many different things that you've done in your life, and you pursue so many different interests. Was wondering, what would you say to your 30-year-old David Deane Spread if you were to go back? What would you tell your 30-year-old self?
Yeah. Change now.
And continue to do so for the remainder.
Yeah, change now. Yeah, yeah. I think I probably spent 10 years longer than I needed to doing what I was doing in the past,
Yeah.
and it cost me marriages. You know, two marriages went because of my choice of career,
Mm.
and I gave myself fully to my career instead of my family, which
Mm.
is a big learning, and I've been able to rectify that this time round. Wendy and I have been together now for 30 odd years, and we have a 27-year-old daughter. And I've been able to be the father that I should have been before, that I
Yeah.
wasn't. So I mean, there are all those things, and my children that I have, I've had 4 children with 3 different mothers, and I lost my first, and my other 3 are close to me. I've just come back from being with my other kids who are in Queensland, and my 3 grandkids. So we're close. We're a family, and I've
Beautiful.
tried to make up for my errors of my youth.
Hey, you know what? You win or you learn, right? So it's everything is a learning experience,
Oh
and
yeah, you learn more when you make mistakes. There's no doubt about that.
for sure, for sure.
I'm pretty good at
I know,
that.
but you know what? I think one of the most important qualities of a true leader is accountability, and there's a lot of people that just do not take accountability for actions. They're always pointing fingers everywhere else. And I think
And that's
that's a
protection. That's just
Mhm.
They're just protecting themselves,
Yeah,
And there's no. I mean, and see that's about fear,
yeah.
and that's the biggest thing. I mean, look, we have nothing to fear.
Mhm.
That's the key. And here's the other thing: we're all going to die anyway.
Yeah. Well,
All of us.
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, you mentioned vulnerability. I mean, that's the thing, and a lot of people are afraid to be vulnerable because they're going to get judged, and they're operating out of fear instead of, I always feel vulnerability is attractive because you don't know what's going on. Everybody has shit going on. Everybody. So they can put on a good face, but there's stuff that's going on. So if you're
Yeah.
able to be empathetic and be vulnerable, you'll have better connections with people. And I think as leaders, executives, and I see this all the time, we put on this suit, and that suit is our armor, and we create a different facade for people instead of being vulnerable and being able to be ourselves. That is what people truly connect to, not the suit or the person that's
Not
wearing.
the bullshit.
Yeah,
And what those executives fail to see is that their people see straight through that.
yeah, exactly.
We're really good at picking up stuff.
Mhm.
And if you're not being authentic, people know it.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
know they don't know who you really are, but they know you're not being you. You're not not being who you really are.
being truthful to yourself.
And I think
Absolutely.
that's one of the and how can you build trust when you don't have that?
Exactly. That's the key. All right. So I have a few questions I ask my guests, or music related questions. Let's see how we do with those. Uh, if you recall, what was the very first concert that you attended?
Yeah, a person who turned out to be infamous, but it was Rolf Harris. And do you know who Rolf Harris is?
Name sounds familiar. I'm trying to remember.
An
Uh,
Australian performer,
uh
singer, who later got done for pedophilia in London and
that's right.
spent time in jail in London.
Yeah.
With a
But
beard, had a beard
yeah,
and black curly hair. He was a very, very talented guy. He had a wobble board. He used to
yeah,
have this board, whooper, 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 whooper.
yeah.
Tie me kangaroo down, sport.
That's
Tie
right.
me
That's right. Tommy
kangaroo
Kangaroo Down.
down.
That's right. That's right. I remember. That's
That was
what
the
I asked
first
him.
concert I went to, and I would have been probably 10 or
Okay.
11.
What was the last concert you attended?
Um, Rod Stewart in Perth.
Okay. It's a good one.
And that was that, and that that was 10 years ago.
Okay. All right. One more music question. You don't have to remember the name of the actual artist, but for the next year, you could only listen to 5 albums. Or I'm sorry, you don't have to remember the name of the actual album, but who the artist is. For the next year, you can only listen to 5 albums. So you can say like a Rod Stewart album. You don't have to remember the name of the one. What would be those 5 albums?
Okay. Neil Diamond,
Mhm.
the Eagles, the Doobie Brothers, Elton John. You can tell my age.
I love all of
um,
them.
um, and Pearl Jam.
There you go. Saw Pearl Jam not that long ago. Fantastic.
No, they have some really good music. Yeah.
All right. So, final question. Please describe what your room looked like growing up.
My room, my bedroom, you mean?
Yeah.
So my bedroom, I shared with my brother, Mark, and Dad had built a double bunk. So Mark was on the bottom bunk and I was on the top bunk, of course.
Mhm.
And where the ladder, where the ladder went up, the centerpiece was our wardrobe,
Mhm.
where our clothes were, and that's the only room we had, the only space we really had. And so we only used the bedroom to sleep in.
Mhm.
We didn't play. We used to play outside.
Was
And
there anything on the walls, like any artwork, posters, anything that you can remember?
no, we were pretty stoic, really. When I think about it, my sisters had a similar setup. That
Mhm.
because the youngest was on the bottom bunk and the eldest was on the top. No, there was nothing that we put on the walls. Although my sisters did, that my brother and I didn't. We
Okay.
were outside.
Yeah.
We were inside. No, don't want to do that.
Yeah. Just playing outside.
Yeah,
Uh,
play outside.
David, where can people find out more about you? Where can they engage with you? Anything else that you want to share?
The easiest way to there's two places where I live, if you like, online, and one is LinkedIn. And if you can spell my name, which is Deane hyphen Spread, David. I'm the only one on the planet. I'm easy to find. You can Google me. I come up on Google. I come up on LinkedIn, and my Metitude,
Mhm.
Metatude.com, is the website. And I'd be happy to chat to anyone.
Great.
And if
David,
you know,
Mhm.
I'm there. I'm there to serve.
Great. Thank you so much for being on. And for my audience, I just want to say thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, keep the wonderful reviews coming. Even if they're not wonderful, I still learn from those reviews as well. Bring them all. Thank you for buying my book, Making Cannabis Personal, on Amazon, wherever you get books. I just want to say it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for truly an interesting person with an interesting life, and I really think that people should connect with your content because it's really you've done a lot of things in your life, and there's a lot of experience, and you've actually leaving that breadcrumb trail for other people to follow. So I encourage people to connect with you. Thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
Likewise.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. So, does anybody know what greening out means? I've been the recipient of so many calls over the years of people greening out. That means they took too much THC and had an adverse reaction. So, I always recommend other things, but nothing really concrete. Now, I can. There's a solution. It is called Antidose. Antidose.com is quick, it's rapid, it works immediately, safe, and effective. So I love my props. If you are toasty or you are burnt, that's the difference. Now, I also love the 1 gummy, 2 gummy, 3 gummy floor. So just be aware, very narrow therapeutic window. You know exactly what you can take now if you've taken too much. Once again, it's Antidose at antidose.com. Get yours today. Hey everyone, thank you for watching and listening. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button, share this episode, and hit that bell. Like, comment. I so appreciate that. And check me out on social under Len May or Len May DNA. Find out more on LinkedIn or lenmaycoaching.com. And remember, everything is personal.